Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon, let's get to it.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from LA. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharpe. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
I feel it.
Today, I am wearing a different version of Kawhi Leonard's by New Balance. These are called the Jolly Ranchers. These were sent to me as a gag gift by my friend Lil Wayne, who's, of course, a Laker fanatic. And they were intended to poke fun at Kawhi Leonard and to maybe even ridicule the Clippers who live in the basement at Staples Center. But today, the joke is on the Lakers because the Clippers somehow came back from the 0-2 down dead, while the Lakers simultaneously had a 2-1 lead over Phoenix, and they are on vacation while the Clippers are about to win the West and win the NBA. Thank you, Shannon Sharpe.
You do know how TV works, right?
Woo!
They just saw you throw Kawhi shoes away the other day.
Yes.
These are my other ones, my gag gift. I still got them. I'm
So
good to go.
We're not throwing them anytime soon. You are
I
wearing
ain't never
those.
seen a bandwagon like this.
Wow, you were excited about that. Okay, we have so much to talk about today, and it has a lot to do with those shoes. Skip's Clippers will not be joining the Lakers with an early playoff exit thanks to 28 points from Kawhi and 22 from Paul George. The Clippers also shot an impressive 24 for 24 from the free throw line in the 126-111 win over the Mavericks to complete their series comeback after being down 2-0 and then 3-2. So, Shannon, what is the biggest reason the Clippers came back and won the series?
Well, Skip, the last two games, Kawhi Leonard was sensational. He was unbelievable. He was phenomenal. And we know in big moments like this, and when you must have it, your superstars must come to the forefront. But this was all about the role players. If you go back Friday night, Skip, Reggie Jackson got off to that roaring start, and he rode along with Kawhi. Now, Paul George, the last two games, Skip, he didn't shoot the ball well. He was 6 of 15 Friday night, and he was 5 of 15 last night. But he did other things. One game, he had 13 rebounds. Yesterday, he had 10 assists. He said, so you know what? I might not have it scoring. I might not be as efficient as I normally am, but I'm going to do other things to help this team win. But when you go back, Skip, yesterday, it was all about Marcus Morris Sr. Skip, he tied Steph Curry for the most three-point shots in a Game 7 with 7. Let that sink in for just a second. Marcus Morris Sr. tied Steph Curry, the greatest shooter, the greatest three-point shooter for the most threes in a Game 7. You got also Paul George had 22, Reggie Jackson 15. Terrence Mann came in off the bench, Skip, 13 big points in the first half. Luke Kennard, who had 3 DMPs, he came in and contributed, and that's what you needed. For me, and this is why I told you, Skip, we had the conversation on Friday. What do you think happens when we come back in? I say, I believe the Clippers will win. I'm not worried about Luka Doncic. I know what Luka's going to give me. He's going to be spectacular. But is Davis, is Finney-Smith coming along? Is Hardaway Jr. coming along? And Skip, don't mention the unicorn. I don't want to hear that if somebody mentioned Kristaps Porzingis, there's nothing unique about him. He's 7'3". He plays like he's 6'3", and all he wants to do is shoot three-pointers. Skip, the tallest guy on the Clippers were what? Kawhi, say 6'8". They're playing behind him. Nicholas Batum, 6'8", playing behind him. Paul George, and he wants to hover around on the perimeter. Bro, get your big, tall, lanky butt down on the block and turn around and shoot the ball over the top of him. Yesterday, Finney-Smith and Luka was 9 of 18 from 3. Everybody else not named Luka or Finney-Smith was 1 for 18. In a situation like this, Skip, we talk about this a lot in football because that's what we do. I say, what's the true measure of a team? Be good offense or defense? Can you do what you need to do when you have to do? If you're the number one offense, when you need a first down, when you need a touchdown or field goal, can you go get it? If you're the number one defense, can you shut someone down? The Clippers went back. What were they all year long, Skip? The best free throw shooting team. Perfect. 24 for 24. What were they? Three-point. Highest three-point percentage team. 20 of 43. That's how you won the ball. That's how they won the ball game. But Skip, Kawhi was unbelievable. Almost one rebound short of a triple-double. But it was the role players. Marcus Morris, Nicholas Batum, Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, Luke Kennard. Those were the difference because Luka canceled out Paul George, and Kawhi. Now he needed one or two guys to come along with him, and he didn't get it yesterday. But Luka was spectacular, but that's why the L.A. Clippers won, is because the role players came along with Kawhi.
Okay, my turn. I was wrong about being wrong about the Clippers, but in the end, two wrongs somehow made a right, because I was initially right about picking the Clippers to win not only this series, but I believe I'm going to be right about them winning the West and getting to the finals. I believe I'm going to be right about them winning the finals. What has Jeff Van Gundy said repeatedly on ABC? The Clippers are the most talented team in the West. That's what he says, in the West. I have told you all year, they're the deepest team in professional basketball. So all about the role players, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, they're deep. You were ridiculing Luke Kennard. Where is he? He makes whatever it is, $15 million. Yeah, well, guess what? He rose at Jones yesterday.
Yes.
Did he not come up big in big moments when they really needed him to make a three here or there, make a defensive play, a stop, a steal? They are so deep, it's scary. They have not played DeMarcus Cousins a bit. I'm going to guess that he'll play more in the next series. Ibaka still has a bad back. I thought he was going to be a big contributing factor, and maybe he will be at some point in the next series, or if possible, the next series. But let me say that these Clippers are simply the most frustrating, maddening team I have ever picked or rooted for in my career. There's never been anything like what the Clippers did to me over the last couple of weeks when they took about 7 years off my life. I want everybody to understand just what a hole they were in. They lost the first two games at home. They were down 30-11 2 Friday nights ago at Dallas before a packed house at the end of COVID, a packed house. Seemed like nobody was wearing masks except the players and the coaches. And it featured the packed house, Dak Prescott in the first row and Michael Irvin up in one of the boxes. And it was madness in that arena in American Airlines. And if you're down 30-11 in a game 3 on the brink of devastation and elimination, because if they fall down 0-3, what's going to happen? They're not going to come back from that. And suddenly, the Mavericks are still making threes in the second half. The Mavericks that night made 23 pointers on that Friday night in the third game.
Right.
No team in the history of the NBA has ever made 23s and lost a home playoff game. Never happened before. And it happened that Friday night. And I will tell you the truth, I'm pretty good at analyzing box scores. I still can't make it compute in my head how somehow the Clippers won that game. But they did. And they came back in game 4, and they pretty much blew the Mavericks off the floor. That was really the only blowout game. That was the blowout game. And then they came home, and you know what that did to me? That might have taken 12 years off my life, because at home, they crumbled down the stretch with the weight of the NBA world on their shoulders, because everybody knows the Clippers are the stepchildren in the basement at Staples. And what did they do right on schedule? They came apart like Clippers always come apart. They choked and they gagged and they crumbled. And there were a lot of unforced errors. And at the end of the game, what happened? Kawhi Leonard winds up shooting an air ball from the corner. The same Kawhi who had made a 7-bounce three-point shot up on the rim to win the Eastern Conference Finals, obviously, over the Philadelphia 76ers with the last second shot.
That might have been the only bad shot. Kawhi took the whole series.
That's what I'm saying. That same guy then bounced back in Game 6 at Dallas. This was another shocker. I'm going to remind you, in Game 6 this past Friday night, I lost 5 cases of Diet Dew because I said the Mavericks will close it out tonight. You were correct. I think you were just trying to jinx me, but that's okay. But the point is, you admitted at the end of the show you were trying to jinx me, but the point was the Mavericks were up 4 at home going to the fourth quarter. And guess what Kawhi Leonard did in the fourth? He went 5 for 5 and 2 of 2 from 3 and scored 12 points. Guess what Paul George did in the fourth quarter? He scored 8 points. Pandemic P, who knew? So your two big guns for the visiting team, the Clippers, scored 20 points in the fourth quarter, and they won the fourth quarter 31-20. They locked down and locked in and locked up on defense, And all of a sudden, right on schedule, Luka disappeared again. He had a couple of garbage baskets at the end, but in the clutch time moments, he was not there for his team.
If you notice what Ty Lue did, Ty Lue blitzed Luka, got the ball out of his hand. So I'll live with anybody else making it. But for some reason, Rick Carlisle let Kawhi operate one-on-one. Why wouldn't you blitz him? Why wouldn't you double him to take the ball out of his hands? It says, okay, Reggie Jackson, okay, Marcus Morris Sr. If someone else, you see he had it going, Skip. He couldn't miss.
Couldn't miss. So let's go to Game 7. Again, weight of the world on the Clippers' shoulders because they had lost all 3 home games. I honestly, truly, from my heart of hearts, from the depths of my soul, I did not believe the Clippers would win yesterday because there are too many demons. They hadn't been able to sniff a win against the Mavericks in Staples. And remember, they have been all-time horrible in early afternoon starts on the weekend in Staples. You can go back several years and look at their record, but just how about this year? They were going into yesterday 1-3 in those noontime starts at Staples on a Saturday or a Sunday. Well, this out here in the Pacific time, as you know, was a 12:30 start. Usually they sleepwalk for a while, and you can argue they sleptwalked at the first of this game because the Mavericks came right out hot. Luka's bombing threes, shooting them up into the rafters, rainbows that come completely out of the rafters. There's nothing up in the rafters for the Clippers, right? And then it comes straight down and swishes. He was swishing, bombing threes in the first half, and it looked like the Mavericks were about to take control, and then the Clippers had a little surge at the end of the half and went up 8. And what did I tweet at halftime? You can look it up on my timeline. I predicted correctly that the 8-point lead would quickly turn into a 5-point Dallas lead. Check it out. And guess what happened? I nailed it. 8 points went to -5 points immediately in the third quarter. So Dallas is up 5 with, what was it, like 7 minutes left, I think, in the third quarter. And let me get my sheet out here. And then here came the Clippers. They go on a 30-6 run. And that run started with a Marcus Morris 3, and again, he was sensational. And
he played 2 good games, Skip. Game 3 and Game 7. That's when he needed it.
And that was off a Paul George assist. And then Paul George got to the free throw line and made a couple of free throws. And then if we could see the Kawhi dunk with 5:43 left in the third quarter, this is the Kawhi dunk. This is when they seized the lead for good. Boom. That was huge because it really rocked the crowd right past Boban and right past your guy Porzingis. And it somehow sent everyone into a frenzy that they never relinquished. So the point was, over that stretch of 30-6, that's 9 minutes and 33 seconds. Over that stretch, your man Luka scored a grand total of 4 points on 2 of 7, 0 of 3 from 3, and he missed both his free throw attempts. So he was not there when they really needed him most.
He missed a couple of bunnies, Skip. And I think the thing is that Luka started getting they played him 45 minutes. Remember, on Friday night, they played him like 43 minutes. Skip, it's hard for him because the difference is that Kawhi can take turns on the ball. Paul George can take turns on the ball. Reggie Jackson can take turns on the ball. Luka, Skip, for whatever reason, Jalen Brunson and Trey Burke did not play well in this series. They had been sensational all year.
Jalen Brunson had some stretches in the first 2 games.
But, Skip, after that, he became unplayable. Rick Carlisle wanted to go to him, and right away, he going back, Luka, come here, I need you. And so that's what happened.
Remember, Jalen Brunson's 6'1".
Yes.
So he plays big, but he's little.
But, Skip, they didn't need him to do, they just needed him to give Luka a break, to take off the, Skip, he's normally money from 3. He normally can get to the rim, finish either hand, but for whatever reason, Skip, these moments like this, now role players normally came up big. You look at the Clippers, they came up big. The Mavericks role players did not come up big in this series. Boban might have been the second best role player they had, and he barely plays in the regular season.
I agree. Okay, so all season long, I sang the praises of my Clippers because I kept telling you, they're not just leading the NBA in free throw percentage, they are setting the all-time team free throw percentage record in the history of the league. They shot 84%. That's the greatest ever. And then, as you point out, yesterday, what do? They go 24 of 24 in Game 7.
100 is better than 84.
24 of 24 in Game 7. Guess what? That was plus 13 over Dallas at the free throw line. Then what have I told you all year long? In percentage shooting, Utah's a great shooting three-point. This is going to be a three-point shootout.
They're going to break some records in three-point shots.
Okay. But the Clippers led the league in three-point percentage.
Yes.
And what did they do yesterday? They made 20 of 43. That's 47% in a Game 7 at home. Want to talk about clutch?
So they're plus 30 in that mark.
They're plus 30. So free throws plus 3-point, they're plus 43. Well, you're probably going to win the game if you're plus 43, okay? And again, this team showed me guts and heart and true grit and backbone and basketball character I wasn't sure it had. And it did so without the missing link that I thought would be playoff Rondo. Do you realize in Game 6 and 7?
Skip, he was bad.
He played 10 minutes, and then he played 11 minutes. I'm sorry, 10 minutes and 9 minutes. 10 and 9 in Game 6 and 7. And he was 0-4 in Game 6, and yesterday he did make 1-3. But slowly but surely, he fell out of the rotation. And you can't tell me that after the air ball that Kawhi shot at the end of the game, when they got into it, I'm not sure that didn't put Kawhi a little bit in Ty Lue's doghouse. Or maybe Kawhi didn't like it, that he was getting shown up on the floor.
Put Rondo in the doghouse.
Yeah, put Rondo in the doghouse. That's what I'm saying. I think maybe the guy I thought would be their quarterback has lost his rotation spot to, of all players, Reggie Jackson.
Reggie Jackson and Terrence Mann is off the bench before he
is.
But Skip, if you watch the game Friday night and last night, Rondo didn't have the ball either. Late in the ball game, it was Kawhi. Kawhi ran the offense.
Okay, but that's what, remember, the weight of the world was hanging on their shoulders because what had they done against Denver? They were up 3 games to 1, and they had leads of 19 and 14 and 12 in the 3 closeout games, and they lost all 3 of them because they did not have a quarterback. They had no true point guard who could organize them and set them up to win the game. But like you said, Kawhi against the zone, he just started playing off the elbow, you know, hit me first in the middle, and then I'll kick it or I'll wheel on somebody.
But Skip, if Kawhi had played like he played these last 3 games last year, it's a moot point. Denver's not advancing anywhere. Kawhi did not play like this, Skip.
He did
not play down the stretch. He could not miss. In the fourth quarters of the last 2 ball games,
possessed.
And if you go back and look at Nicholas Batum. I thought Nicholas Batum was Dominique Wilkins. Nicholas Batum was getting the ball wheeling and going and dunking on people. He tried to dunk on Boban.
He did.
That ain't Nicholas Batum game.
Yeah. He became the glue of this team, and he can defend at a high level. He couldn't defend Luka. Only Kawhi could defend Luka. And I give Kawhi high marks because he sucked it up and reached down and played some defense. You've been accusing him he can't sit in the chair anymore. He sat in it just enough. Now, again, they were blitzing. He had a second.
Kawhi take him for like 5 or 6 possessions. Then Paul George would take him. Then Marcus Morris Sr. would take him. Then Terrence Mann would jump on him. Then Batum would jump on him. Rondo would jump on him. And he's constantly having to compute. Okay, how am I going to attack this guy? How am I going to? They didn't give him a steady diet of anything. And then when the rubber needed to meet the roll in the fourth quarter, they said, you know what? We're going to get this ball at your hands. Hardaway Jr., Finney-Smith, Porzingis, Kleber, you other guys, let's see what you guys can do.
All right, to finish on Reggie Jackson, he drives me crazy. He also drove the Clippers to a Game 7 win. Because he averaged playing 30 minutes a game in this series. He is the starter and the finisher for this team. And every time I think of Reggie Jackson, I think of the greatest game he ever played. I don't know if you remember this. It was the 2014 playoffs when he was in Oklahoma City. And they were at Memphis, and they were down 2 games to 1. So they're about to go down 3 games to 1 as Kevin Durant in this game at Memphis, it was the game 4, he shoots 5 of 21 and 1 of 7 from 3. Russell Westbrook shot 6 of 24 and 1 of 6 from 3. So they combined to go 11 of 45 and 2 of 13 from 3. Meanwhile, Reggie Jackson came off the bench to score 32 points and get them home in overtime when he scored 8 of their 12 points. he is a big-time shooter and scorer. You have to live with him.
Right.
You have to live with it because he's going to take some bad shots and miss some bad shots.
Well, remember, Skip, they wanted to re-sign Reggie, but Reggie wanted to go be his own guy.
He did.
He said, I can't be this with Russ here. So
Detroit.
He ends up going to Detroit.
Yep.
It was a little bad blood because, Reggie, y'all do y'all thing over here. I need to get over here and do my own thing. He is, Skip. He's a scorer. You have to take the good with the bad. But if he gets hot like he did Friday night, because he kept him in it.
He did.
He kept him in the ball game because nobody else had it really going, and he was after three after three after three. And yesterday, Skip, these role players.
Hey, with 1:45 left, Dallas cut it to 7, and I thought, here they go again. And what happened at that moment, if we could see it? Reggie happened.
He did.
And I said, no, don't, please don't. Swish. And I said, thank you, Reggie Jackson. I immediately tweeted, thank you, and thank you, Marcus Morris, because they both can go a little cold, but they also have guts to take big shots and make big shots.
I mean, Marcus Morris yesterday was 7 of 9 from 3, Skip. 7 of 9.
And remember, it was game 6 at Dallas. He made 3 big threes from the far corner.
The Friday night game. Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Because, listen, that man's got some playoff guts in him. So, again, deep, talented, and finally, they actually lived up to what I think they could be.
Right.
You saw on full display yesterday a team that is highly capable of winning it all.
Right. I think they are. And this helps a lot because being in this situation, Skip, it lets you know you can overcome adversity. But Utah's a different beast because they got a guy that can make plays. Now, for me, Donovan Mitchell is not the caliber player that Luka is, but his surrounding players are better than what Luka possessed. But Donovan can shoot it. Ingles can shoot it.
Okay.
We got Jordan Clarkson.
He's only the 6th man of the year.
Yeah, Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench. Ingles was runner-up to Jordan Clarkson. And so O'Neal can play defense. He can make the threes. And then you got the big stifle tower. Now you think he's more active than Boban. You're not getting anything in the lane cheap.
No, I think we're going to see more Zubats in this game. Yeah, it'll be more man on man, mano a mano.
Right. And we forgot now. We don't see how his hamstring is holding up, but Mike Conley Jr.
Yep.
He's made for these moments. Here's a guy that can run the point, that can make big shots, can get to the lane, can finish with either hand. This is going to be a very interesting series. I'm anxious to see how this thing plays out.
I got Clippers in 6 over the Utah Jazz. You have?
It's a long. You know what, Skip? I think I'm going to go Utah in 7.
Okay.
Good. I think I'm going to go Utah in 7.
Good. I like it. That
Clippers
makes me feel better.
Shannon, Utah in 7. All right. That's good to know. I'm just sad that we're done with Baby Bird for now, Shannon. I'm sorry
I miss
for
Baby
you.
Bird.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you for now.
Mercy.
The Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul fight ended up going the distance, all 8 rounds, with no knockdowns from either fighter. Paul is 6 inches taller and 35 pounds heavier, but the more experienced Mayweather was still able to land 15 more punches. And after the exhibition, Floyd said it just felt good to still move around and that Logan Paul was, quote, better than I thought he was. So, Shannon, should Floyd be embarrassed he didn't knock Logan Paul down or out?
No, Skip, look, Floyd has made a career, made his living on not taking unnecessary risk. And he wasn't going to walk. This kid, look, he's 50 pounds heavier than Floyd at the fight. Skip, he's so much bigger. And Floyd is, 44 years of age. And the hand speed and the precision is not there anymore. He knows it. And for me, look, Floyd's like, if I can pick up a quick $20, $30 million, however much he made, Skip, it was more than had he not taken the fight he could have made. He's like, I'm not taking any risk. But Paul did land a few good shots on Floyd. He hit him with a couple of shots. I don't think it hurt Floyd, but he did land a couple of shots. But the thing is, Skip, you heard his corner. That's the greatest fight of all time. And you lasted with him. Skip, it was just about him getting there and finishing the fight. It wasn't about him beating Floyd. He just wanted to finish to say, a YouTuber. I do jokes, I eat Legos, I step on I jump out of plane, I do all this crazy stuff. And I went 8 rounds with Floyd Mayweather. I've done something that a lot of boxers can't say they did, and they're trained in this. And I did it. So for me, Skip, I think Floyd just looked. Floyd, you done made enough money. You convinced me to watch damn near every fight you've ever fought on pay-per-view. The ones I didn't attend in person, I watched on pay-per-view. Floyd, let this go now. Floyd wasn't in shape to fight. Now, he wasn't in Skip Floyd. Floyd is a naturally small man. He only weighed 155. Floyd's only going to walk around at 155. That's why he can fight his whole career at 147.
Yep.
Skip, all he's taking, you go to camp for 8 weeks, you're going to drop 8 pounds easy. So that's why he was never tasked to like, oh, man, he barely made weight. Because he's a naturally small man. He's a naturally 50-poundish man. He only fought once at 154, and he didn't even make that. He fought at like 150. So for me, it wasn't entertaining. It was just a bunch of hugging and holding on. Floyd was not going to take the risk to put himself in harm's way the way he would need to knock Jake Paul out. I think Jake or Logan. Logan Paul.
He's lucky it wasn't Jake Paul, or he might have been in trouble.
Yeah.
Jake was a lot during the whole thing.
Yeah.
But Skip, Logan Paul was so much bigger than Floyd. Floyd has never fought a man that much bigger than he is. So now all of a sudden you got to punch up instead of just punch, even, kill. But I was disappointed because I thought I would, even if he didn't knock him out, I thought he'd get a lot more shots than what he did on him. But I thought the kid did pretty well for himself.
He did pretty well for himself. Even though this did not count on Floyd's record, obviously, it's 50-0.
Yeah.
It tarnished Floyd's legacy in my mind because I carefully watched it thinking it was going to be a joke.
Right.
I think most people thought it was going to be Ringling Brothers in the ring, right? Just a circus. And even in the pre-fight interview that they did on Showtime, Floyd admitted, he said, I'm retired from boxing, but I'm not retired from entertaining.
Right.
And he said, I'm paraphrasing how he said it, but he said, I'm trying to decide, should I just knock him out early or should I let it last for a while?
Right.
Because that's what he thought was about to happen. That did not happen.
Right.
In fact, Floyd tried to just peekaboo him for the first 2 rounds, just sort of feel him out. In the second round, he resorted to some Ali rope-a-dope,
Yeah,
trying to wear him out, right? And then in the third round, Floyd got tagged a couple of times.
Yeah,
not that he got hurt or knocked down, but he got tagged.
Right.
And it ticked him off. And he got mad, and he started coming full force.
Right.
Whatever he had left at 44, he was throwing at Logan Paul in the third round. And I have never seen Floyd Mayweather Jr., the greatest defensive fighter ever, not a great knockout puncher, but still a good puncher.
Right.
I've never seen him swing and miss so much because he swung and missed with a bunch of haymakers. And I know the stats are tilted way in Floyd's favor because Floyd landed 43 of only 107 punches, while Logan Paul was 28 of 217. Logan Paul threw 207. He threw 110 more punches than Floyd did. So he was coming. He was trying. And he's not a bad technical boxer, or he would have gone down.
Yeah.
Because the point was, not only did Floyd not knock him out, he never even knocked him down one time.
No.
Not one time was Logan Paul what you'd say was in trouble in that fight.
Nope.
Not one time.
Nope.
He had a little bit of a mouse under one eye. He took a couple of whacks. Floyd got in the better shots.
Yeah, he had the cleaner shots.
And I tried to score it. I know it wasn't being scored.
Right.
But just very simply, I gave Floyd 5 out of 8 rounds. So if it had counted, he would have won on points. It would have been fairly close, but he would have won on, at least on my card. I saw ESPN's card. They had it about the same.
Right.
So it wasn't that. It was that Shannon Sharpe bought this and went to watch it at a theater, and I bought this and watched it on my couch with Ernestine and Hazel, and I was ready for the silliness.
Yeah.
I wanted to see how fast he was going to go down.
And we talk about this earlier, but I thought Ocho Cinco fight was more entertaining than this.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute. You could certainly argue that, but I was entertained just because I wasn't entertained.
Right.
I kept waiting.
I was disappointed.
You're a Floyd fan.
I am.
I'm not. And so after a while, I'm definitely not a Logan Paul fan. I found myself rooting for Logan Paul because to just stand up. If you can stand up for 8 rounds, and it got to the point where near the end of the 8th round, he's clowning Floyd.
Right.
He's making fun of him.
Skip, it's like
you can't knock me out.
Skip, it's like anything. If I'm a novice tennis player and I go out there and I take a game off of Nadal, a joker, I won.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Oh, if you did,
thank you, Skip.
Yes.
You the professional.
Yes.
I ain't got no business in here. I'm just doing this. I'm just joking around.
This was effectively taking a game off Nadal.
Yes!
Yeah, because he stood up the whole fight.
Right.
And Floyd was trying, doing his damnedest to at least knock him down one time,
Right.
and he could not do it.
He couldn't.
And afterwards, Floyd readily admitted, I'm not 21 anymore,
Right.
and he was better than I thought.
He was the age, Skip, the age, and like you said, if you look at the misses, but I noticed this, Skip, against Conor, because I noticed a younger Floyd, Conor would have been out of there inside of 5 rounds. But as we start to age, Skip, that marksmanship, that Floyd was pinpoint accurate. I mean, you look at him against Cotto. You look at him against some of them other fighters, and he didn't miss.
Never been anyone better in that regard. Defensively and pinpoint accuracy.
Yes. He could roll the shoulder, and you throw, and he come back, boom.
When he threw, they were sometimes powder puff kind of punches, but they landed where they were intended to land.
Right.
Last night, not so much. And Floyd didn't look right to me. I know he's grown the beard, but it made his face look fat, which was shocking to me.
Well, I think the thing is, Skip, I mean, there's a difference between being in fighting shape and says, okay, I'm in shape. Floyd's in great shape to be a 44-year-old man. He's in really good shape.
Oh, he is. I agree.
But he's not in 44. He's not in boxing shape. That's a whole different type of shape.
Because he used to fight at 147, as you said, and he weighed in
155.
155. 2 days, was it 2 days ago?
Yes.
Yeah. And the point was, he probably went and ate. He might have fought at 160 something, right? Because he looked like, and he was a little pudgy around his waistline than usual. Usually, he's almost too skinny. You know, like he was. You want to talk about ripped and thin?
Yes.
Man,
but you look at Jake Paul, and I'm watching Jake Paul in the ring. Jake Paul, he weighed at 189.
Yep.
He probably walked in the ring 195, maybe even 200.
No doubt. And as Floyd said afterwards, he knew how to use his weight against Floyd because he was so much bigger. And remember, he's 6 inches taller, so he's a lot longer. And he could sort of suffocate Floyd with his height and his reach. Not that he has long, big arm span, but he's just so much bigger. And it was hard for Floyd because it's too much tonnage to fight through.
When somebody that much bigger than you lean on you, Floyd would try to hit him with the uppercut. But you hit him in his chest, where normally he throwing that punch against somebody his height. That's a chin shot.
Yep.
Remember, he caught Conor with that shot in the clinch. Boom. Well, this dude that's a big man. Logan Paul's a big man, Skip, and he has some technique. Now, if he were to get in the ring with Bud Thurman, he get in the ring with somebody that's active now. Oh, they get him out of there in a couple of rounds. But that's a different ball game when Floyd is just exhibition. Floyd is just mainly hitting the heavy bag. Floyd's not sparring anymore, Skip. He's on the speed bag. He's on the heavy bag. He's doing jump rope. That's a whole different ball, a whole different animal than actually fighting.
So because I do have so much respect for Floyd as a boxer, that was embarrassing for him. That just for me, it hurt my eyes to watch it. I'm going to have a hard time getting it out of my memory bank because it might be the last I ever see of Floyd in any kind of quote-unquote fight. Because I would recommend to him that was not worth it.
Yeah, let it go.
I know, he's made
20,
jokes
30.
about, hey, if Conor wants a rematch and they'll give me $100 million, maybe I'd do it. I just don't want to see it anymore.
No.
I want to try to hang on to my memory of Floyd versus Pacquiao, or going back to all those Cotto fights and all, because you want to talk about a wizard. Woo. You want to talk about gifted? You want to talk about the ability to duck punches, to avoid punches? There's never been anything like him before. Even the great Sugar Ray Leonard wasn't quite in Floyd's
Not the defense.
class.
The only guy that had defense at that size like him was Sweet Pea Whitaker. But Sweet Pea's offense wasn't like his. That's what made Floyd Mayweather so spectacular. He had the defense of Sweet Pea, but he had an offensive arsenal that was unrivaled. Guys had offense, the Kings. When you talk about Leonard, Durant, Hearns, all those Hagler, Skip, they had offensive firepower, but they couldn't dodge punches like this guy. And that's why you see, you look, Tommy Hearns, they have to use subtitles. All these guys, Floyd still is able to go around and function because he didn't take those punches because of his defensive skill set.
I know it was a long time ago, but do you remember what Floyd did to Canelo? I know it's forever ago.
Yes, he drug him.
And Canelo was a baby, but you want to talk about taking somebody to school?
Yes.
Skip, I mean, it was a mismatch.
People don't realize, Skip, that early on, Floyd started out at 130. Floyd was knocking people out until his hands got bad.
Yeah, he did.
And he beat everybody. He beat Cotto, Medina, Hatton, Gotti, you name it. He didn't duck anybody. And they talk about, well, Floyd don't knock. No. He didn't duck anybody. You go back and look at Floyd's
career. Still not sure he fought anybody of note when he caught them at their peak or their right time.
No, he made them look like that, Skip. He just made them look bad. He made him look bad.
Yeah, but
now Canelo. Now you realize just how special it was because Canelo has gone up in weight. Canelo's 168 now, so obviously that's off the table.
Yep.
And now Canelo looks unbeatable.
He does.
But he pitched a shutout. He shut him out.
Well, I for one. How much was it? $49.95.
Yeah,
I didn't mind spending my $49.95.
Well, I spent it for two reasons. I wanted to see Ocho.
Yeah, well, and Ocho went first, and we're going to talk about Ocho in a little bit. But that was sort of the highlight of the night. Although I did get a kick out of seeing Floyd have to labor all through 8 3-minute rounds just to get through it.
He's never had a man that size lean on him for 8 rounds, Skip. That's a lot. That's a lot to hold him up.
Yep.
So, okay, you paid
Floyd,
for it.
Give it a rest.
We're talking whether or not it was embarrassing. They're looking at $100 million, right, for Floyd, possibly $20 million for Logan Paul. So maybe they're the ones laughing at us.
Oh no, I'm gonna have to get on that. Hey, Skip, what you thinking, Skip?
Who do you guys want me to fight? Who do you want me to fight?
You and me?
I'm available. That is something I could get behind. And I feel like many
about
would
one minute
as well.
round.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we may or may not have seen this one coming, but Julio Jones is on his way out of Atlanta. Yesterday, the Falcons and Titans agreed to terms sending Julio to Nashville. Tennessee will send a 2nd and 4th round pick for Julio and a 6th round pick as well. So, Shannon, will Julio come back to haunt Atlanta?
Well, Skip, he's not in the NFC. And I think that was really one of the main things that they wanted to do. They wanted to keep him out of the NFC. They didn't want to trade him to one of these teams, the 49ers, or one of these teams in the NFC. So they did that. They got him out of the NFC. They put him in the AFC. I thought this was a very good pickup for the Atlanta Falcons. But think about it, Skip.
For the Tennessee.
For the Tennessee Titans, Skip.
Yep.
The New England Patriots, and I told you at the time, gave a 2nd round pick for Mohamed Sanu.
They did.
Mohamed Sanu went for basically the exact same thing Julio Jones did.
Where is he now? Yep.
Skip, I think the thing is, the Falcons let it be known that Julio was going to be available because they asked the question early last year. You know, they had the cap issue with Matt Ryan. What are they going to do with Matt Ryan? Julio's probably going to be the odd man out. So once that became known, well, you kind of, have it. Plus, he's 32 years of age. They say Julio's injury prone. Julio's not injury prone. You look at his numbers. The 1 year he had a screw placed in his foot, and last year. So in a decade, he's missed a handful of games. But he's still dynamic. He's a top 3 receiver. If you don't have him number 1 based on last year, he's not falling out of the top 3. If you like if you like D-Hop, you like Devontae Adams, Julio. Okay, I ain't gonna fight you about none of them, but coming back and being in this situation with A.J. Brown on the other side, now Julio all of a sudden, he ain't gonna be getting all that double team. Because you gotta worry about A.J. Brown. Plus, you gotta worry about that 6-foot monster, 6'4" monster in the backfield that's coming down your throat also. With that being said, Skip, I'm surprised Atlanta did it. I really am, because when I look at it, Skip, I'm trying to scan the roster, I'm like, well, hold on. Who do they got this Aaron Donald over there that's making $22 million a year? Or who's Jalen Ramsey? Or who's Myles Garrett? Who's these guys that I don't know how they spent all their money or where it went to.
Quarterback.
Well, that'll do it. But he got to perform, Skip. So now you're back in the same situation. You're going to have to outscore people. I don't know if Kyle Pitts, and I think he has the ability to be special. But is he going to be Julio special in his first couple of years? I don't know about that. So now and I know Calvin Ridley, they picked up his 5th-year option. Obviously, they say, you know what? Julio's getting on up there in age. We like what we have with Calvin Ridley. We like some of these younger guys, Skip. But there's no way I would have given up on Julio. I'd have bit the bullet on that. I'd have reworked some contracts. Asked Julio, I'd have kicked the can down the road, Skip. He's too good of a player. But I think what we're seeing now is that the likelihood of your favorite player that started with your team, him finishing with your team, ain't gonna happen.
It's a long shot for it to happen. So you and I have gone back and forth on this for feels like months.
Yes.
And I told you from the start, my gut feeling was Julio might have one more big year in him, but I would not blame or certainly condemn the Falcons if they said, if they use the old Branch Rickey motto of always trade a player 1 year before you think you should. Mm-hmm. He had a hamstring issue, cost him about half the year last year. Will it be recurring? I don't know. As he goes into 33 and 34-year-old years, will he start to wane? The odds are probably so. Will he be that guy? I'm not saying he's going to turn into Floyd Mayweather last night,
right.
but again, will he be that guy who makes the difference in your team? I don't think so. You know how much I thought of Kyle Pitts. I know how much you thought of Kyle Pitts. So they said, we got our guy. Thank you, draft gods.
Right.
He fell to us. What were they at? 4.
4.
And here we go. Mm-hmm. So we will feature him, and he's got big shoes to fill.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And I think he's more of a wideout than a tight end. That's just me. I think he's Megatron. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. And Calvin Ridley's got even bigger shoes to fill because he goes to 1. And you know what happens when you go to 1? Yep. You're going to get more double teams and way more attention. Kyle Pitts is going to get a lot of double team. But I think Atlanta did okay, except I thought they could get a 1 because they leaked that they had a 1 on the table. Yeah. I didn't buy it at the time.
Well, if they had a 1, they'd have traded him at the draft. That's why they didn't trade him at the draft, because they didn't have a 1. They thought they could drum up support come late.
They were trying to drum it up.
Yes.
They were trying to hype the market, and it did not work. No. So they wind up with a 2 this coming draft and then a 5 in the following draft. Right. 23. And again, it's a nice move. I'm not going to go to great move for the Titans, but it's a good move for the Titans. Give it a shot for a year or 2 and see what happens, because they lost, what's the kid's name? Corey Davis. So they lost him, and they lost Jonnu Smith to the Patriots, obviously via free agency.
But Skip, if you look at what they got A.J. Brown. And when I look at Julio and A.J. Brown, both of these guys remind me of T.O. Big, physical, great run after the catch, can make tough contested.
A.J. Brown is something to behold. And He's on the verge of stardom. Right.
Okay, Tannehill is great at play action. Mm-hmm. Well, you can play action when you got a guy that can go get you 2,000 yards in the regular season with Derrick Henry in the backfield. Yep. Now, Fisker, he's not Travis Kelce. He's not one of these elite tight ends. But now he's going to get a lot of single coverage because you're going to what are you going to do? You drop the safety down there. That means you're going to go one-on-one with A.J. and Julio.
Yep.
Now, see, the thing is with Julio had a little nagging hamstring injury in training camp.
He did.
And it leaked over into the season. He didn't take care of it. You know, Skip, you know how it is. See, I got to get out there. You're going to be ready to go. They put that pressure on you. And when he should have taken care of himself, but that's us. We always feel like we're going to do the best that we can to help the team, and we can help the team by being out there. But they need to understand one thing about trainers. The trainer job is not to get you totally healthy. His job is to get you healthy enough to get your ass on that field. That's his job, Skip.
Yep.
So anything other than that, don't fool yourself. So Julio is ready to go. And when I was talking to him, I said, well, why you feel like you need to be ready to go now? He says, because I needed to know that come August, September, when I need to step on the gas, I can go. So he's assured me he's 100% and he's ready to go.
Okay. The great thing about Julio is he's a rare, great wide receiver without the ego to match.
No.
There's no diva in him. He just works hard.
Yeah, but
keeps his mouth pretty shut.
He does, but here's the thing what people confuse. People say because he's not vocal, he doesn't have ego, he doesn't have pride.
No, I got that.
He got immense pride.
Sure he does.
And it was damaged when it was leaked that he was going to be available. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay. You can argue that it was leaked because Atlanta wanted a big auction. He's available, come one, come all, and they didn't come.
Right.
I think the market was telling you what the rest of the league thinks is more in line with what I'm thinking than what you're thinking.
Right.
But they don't think he'll come back to haunt the Falcons eventually.
I believe he's going to be spectacular this year.
Do you?
With A.J. Brown on the other side, and he's going to get a lot of single coverage because, like you said, I think the thing is, Skip, he comes in with that credibility. And so now there's like, okay, we're going to double A.J. Do you really want your second corner dealing with him? You want your third corner dealing with Julio?
Yeah.
Even Skip, even if he's not the 1,900-yard receiving Julio, Skip, the guy has 3 200-yard games. He has a 300-yard game.
He does.
And even though he had a bad year, let this sink in. Yards per game, he's number 1. His 85 yards a game, Skip, was the second lowest of his career.
Yep.
85 yards a game. So that's 1,300, 1,400 yards. Even in a bad season, what receiver wouldn't take 1,400 yards?
Yep. Well, you can look it up way back on my Twitter timeline. The moment that Dimitrov traded up to get him in the draft,
Yes.
I said, this is a franchise-changing
Yes.
move because he was a difference maker at Atlanta. Unlike any receiver I'd ever seen before him at Atlanta, he was different.
I was at the draft that night, Skip, because that was the year I went to the Hall of Fame, and they had all the guys that go into the Hall of Fame. They came to the draft. I didn't realize how big he was until you standing next to him. And then you realize, like, whew, man, this dude, 230.
230. What do you have him, 6'3"?
He's 6'3",
not
230,
four.
he ran 4.35, 4.36.
It's just freakish.
Yes.
And I thought it was a big deal that A.J. Brown did a TikTok in which he was just flat out down on his hands and knees, please come and join us, and was calling him Leo, as in Julio, like Leo, which they have some relationship.
Right.
He's obviously got a close relationship with Derrick Henry.
Right.
So he'll be a good locker room fit. There's not going to be any animosity or resentment. He'll blend right in. I think they're going to win the division even without him because it's not a very good division.
Oh, yeah, they
unless
definitely.
you think Carson Wentz is going to turn back to walk it in.
Well, he's gonna have to play out of his mind because Tennessee is. The question that I have for Tennessee, Skip, they had the 4th worst pass defense in football. So how much better have they got? They signed Bud Dupree.
They did.
They signed Jack Rabbit. Now they let Dory Jackson go.
They did.
They let Malcolm Butler go. Jadeveon Clowney didn't give them anything. The kid they got from Atlanta, Vic Beasley, didn't give them anything.
Nope.
So how much better are they going to be defensively? I'm not worried about their offense because offensively they were good last year. And they just couldn't stop anybody.
Unless, of course, Tim Tebow's team steals the division. You never know. He's capable.
Tim Tebow ain't stealing anything. He better hope he can steal some playing time.
Did you just say Tim Tebow's team?
Yeah.
You gave
You see
him
what I'm saying?
ownership of that
Or
team?
maybe he can steal a roster spot. Let's hope he can steal a roster
I think
spot.
we are
Let's
far
start with
from
that
it
first.
being Tebow's team. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm not going to let that one slip, Skip. Come on. Well, the Titans tweeted out a picture of Julio touching down. It is official. He has moved on. So that'll be fun to watch as it plays out for us.
No mercy.
This time, Pro Bowl wide receiver Chad Johnson made his boxing debut yesterday against Brian Maxwell in an exhibition fight. Johnson got knocked down in the final round, but was able to get back to his feet to finish the fight. So, Shannon, please give Chad Johnson a letter grade from me.
Skip, I went to bed last night saying, you know what, I think Chad deserves an A. But I'm gonna give him a B+. Because I thought up until that he had acquitted himself very well, Skip, up until that point. And the one thing they teach you in boxing is you don't go straight back and you always keep your hands up. Even the referee, the last words that he gives you, Skip, keep your hands up at all times.
Defend yourself at all times. Yep.
And so Chad goes straight back. He has his hands down because he's starting to get tired. And if anybody's that ever boxed, you know how hard it is to keep your hands up in that position. 3 minutes is man, people say, man, 3 minutes. 3 minutes is a long time.
Well, they were only 2 minutes.
But Skip,
and wearing them both out.
And the 1 minute rest is not nearly enough after throwing those punches. But Skip, he got a good shot. He understood the fundamentals of boxing. Considering he's only been at this for about 6 weeks, he was shooting the jab. He was trying to, land the overhand. And this guy was a bare knuckles fighter, even though he didn't have any success.
No.
He did MMA, but he was a fighter. So it wasn't like Chad was just fighting some guy that's like, they picked him up off the street, said, hey, come, we got a couple of dollars for you. Come get in the ring, Chad Johnson. No. So I thought Chad, he did very, very well. And I thought he acquitted himself very well. I gave him a B+. It was entertaining. He got some good quality shots in. And had he not gotten knocked down, who knows? He might have even won the fight, Skip.
Maybe.
But I gave him a B+ for that performance.
I love Chad Johnson. I still like to call him Ocho Cinco because it just fits him.
Yes.
I'm going to go A- just for having the guts to try it.
Yeah.
And he said, as soon as it was over, to everybody watching, you got to have the courage to fail. And Chad's got a long bucket list, and he keeps trying this and that and the other. He's tried bull riding, soccer.
I did. I failed
WWE.
compute lit in high school. I'm good. That's the last failure I want on my resume.
Okay, well,
I ain't getting knocked upside my head, Skip, to fail.
He's tried a little bit of everything.
Bull
Dancing
riding?
with the Stars, yep. And he's created apps for phones. He's tried a lot of things.
Right.
And I first got to know Chad in 2009 when we started going back and forth sparring on Twitter. And one thing led to the next. And early that season, before game number 1, it was back on September 8th, of 2009. It was the day after Labor Day. We actually took First Take on the road for the first time. Our longtime fans might remember this, so that I could go face-to-face, head-to-head with Chad Ochocinco in the visitors' locker room on their day off in that Paul Brown Stadium in Cincinnati. And Marvin Lewis stormed in during one of the commercials and was furious that Chad was doing this on the week before their opener.
Right.
And yet it was Chad, because he was going to have the guts to take me on face-to-face.
Right.
Now, he does love the attention.
Right.
But I went hard at him, and in our A block of that show, he got some tears in his eyes fighting back.
Right.
And he defended himself very well. And of course, we got to know each other, and we became friends off that.
Right.
And then I've been on TV with him numerous times, and he's great to have on television. But he's actually, to me, more of a lover than a fighter.
Right.
He's not naturally a fighter. I know he's had his off-the-field issues. Got it. But the point is that I don't think he has it in his heart to be a brawler. It just doesn't come across that way. So he worked hard at trying to figure. He went southpaw, obviously.
Right.
And his jab with his right was pretty good.
Right.
And he was actually doing some damage with it. Now, just to keep this in perspective, he was fighting the immortal Brian Maxwell, who was 0-3 as a bare-knuckle fighter, who was 2-3 as an MMA fighter, and 0-1 as a professional boxer, having lost to the immortal Gaspard Pierre at the DoubleTree near the airport in Miami. That's where this guy had come from, and he idolized Chad Johnson. He grew up in Miami idolizing Chad.
Right.
So, again, was his heart in it to try to put him down? Well, yeah, maybe.
Because at the end of the day, Skip, you look, he is a fighter.
Yeah.
And the last thing that you want to do is lose to a non-fighter.
No,
it's just like anything, Skip. I mean, you know, if I'm a basketball player, I'm not trying, I don't care how good an athlete you are in your sport. I'm not trying to lose to you in my sport. If I'm a football player, Skip, I'm not trying to have LeBron James out there come catch a pass on me or beat me. But I don't give a damn who he is in this sport. No, that's not going to happen. So even though that guy doesn't have the credentials of a Floyd Mayweather or a Thurman or one of your Bud Crawford, but he is a fighter. He's fought before.
He has.
You know, he's been knocked out in bare knuckles. I don't know how much, Skip, that's street fighting. That's basically street fighting, sanctioned street fighting.
Yep.
So, and he's been in MMA. So he is a fighter, and although he idolized, he looks up to Chad, yeah, I ain't trying to lose to you, bro.
Yep. So I believe Chad was, quote unquote, winning a fight that was going to have no scoring.
You're right.
Until the fourth round when he
got careless.
He got a little careless, and he lost his focus for a second, and he got rocked.
Right. And what happens?
And dropped.
That's what happens.
Yep.
When you start to get tired, you drop your hands, your jaw comes open because you got to breathe out your mouth instead of breathing out your nose.
Yep.
And then dude caught him. He popped right back up.
He did.
I give him that's better than what Nate did. Nate
I agree. He did. I agree. Chad got stung.
Yeah.
Because he was a little wobbly from there on.
Right.
He was a little wobbly, and I give him high marks for just being able to finish the fight.
Right.
And his close friend Terrell Owens was ringside there for support. And I think Terrell was very proud of him for just hanging in there and finishing the fight.
Right.
But I don't want to see Chad box anymore, and I don't think he wants to box anymore.
Skip, I think the thing is once you do something and you realize how hard it is, you're like, oh, man, I did that, but I don't want to do that again.
Yep.
You know, with skydiving, skipping this way, you know, like, man, what a rush. I ain't trying to do it again.
Well, you dove right into
the
Bronco Stadium.
I did.
I would not do it. I have a fear of heights. I couldn't even begin to look out of the plane and think I'm going to leap.
Well, Skip, when you get up there about 13,000, 14,000 feet, and all of a sudden that plane, and that door, they hit that door, and that door started to come over. It's all right.
Well,
Sharpe, you ready?
I'd be clinging to that ripcord, right? Because it better work.
But I thought.
Did you have somebody alongside?
Yeah, it was a tandem. It was a tandem. Right. But Skip, I mean, it's still. I mean, you up there, you like all the things that you thinking that would go through your mind. Like you said, I hope this ripcord open. I hope the parachute. I hope they did this right because they packed their own chute.
I know.
So you don't trust anybody else. So I got to put all my faith in him.
You do.
But Chad Ochocinco, he did a great job, Skip.
Yeah.
I thought he acquitted himself very well. So somebody to take this up with 6 weeks' notice,
he did.
He didn't have any background. Now, Brandon Marshall boxes all the time. I tell you another guy that Curtis Martin.
Yep. He's always been a boxer.
He spars and everything.
Yep.
He's still with that.
I mean, that's how he gets his exercise.
Right, correct. But I thought Chad, even though, like I said, he got knocked down.
Yep.
He popped right up, and he was like. But it's hard. You get a little woozy. It's just like you get dinged in football.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, okay, let me get my bearings back. Hey. But this fight was more entertaining than the other fight.
I got it. So let me tie a bow on this by giving Chad one bouquet. To me, this took guts, but he became the greatest touchdown dance celebrator in the history of professional football. Yep. And I know T.O. was great, but Chad was so clever and creative. And my favorite was always the river dance.
The river dance.
It was just so funny. It just made me laugh. We could see it again. That's just because it was at the height of the river dance popularity around the country. And he's doing the river dance in the end zone. And I fell on the floor.
He proposed. He was an entertainer. He was a showman.
He did a Tiger Woods putt.
Yep.
Right?
But there's no question in my mind, Skip, that this was this was more entertaining than the Floyd Mayweather fight. It had some action. And then guys, they were trying to land punches. He got a good, hit jab, overhand, right. I'm like, okay, Floyd, go ahead, old child, you doing it.
I, for one, was more entertained by Floyd because he was getting his butt pushed around the ring. So I enjoyed that he had to struggle.
Man, little Floyd, look, come on, man. The man 44 years old, man. He ain't been in the gym like that.
And then he referred to his opponent as a good little guy. He's a good little guy. Floyd, he weighs 50 more pounds than you do. Good little guy.
He does.
No mercy. Well, how about this? Skip's Clippers won't be joining the Lakers with an early playoff exit thanks to 28 points from Kawhi and 22 from Paul George. The Clippers also shot an impressive 24 for 24 from the free throw line in the 126-111 win over the Mavericks to complete their series comeback after being down 2-0 and 3-2. They got it done. Fox Sports NBA analyst Steven Jackson is joining us now. Steven, I got to ask about this one. How surprised were you the Clippers came back to win Game 7?
Well, one thing about me, I'm a guy that's not surprised about when things happen in playoffs. Obviously, we'd be the 1 seed in the first round, so anything can happen. And it's about making adjustments. The Clippers made the best adjustments after Game 5. 6 and 7, they made a lot of adjustments. They were able to win the game. Dallas is not that talented. They have Luka is great, but everybody else on their team is average. KP has really been playing average, even though he's a $100 million player. There's a lot of players making $100 million in the league that are not stars, that are not on the court, that don't show passion. So Luka was basically out there by himself the whole series, and he is great. But in order to win a series, you need more. You need your whole team. You need other players to step up. You can do that in regular season. You can't do that in the playoffs. Kudos and props to Ty Lue. He made some great adjustments, and the supporting cast from the Clippers team really stepped up in Game 6 and 7. So you got to give props to them for stepping up and stepping up to the challenge to get the job done.
Stack, you mentioned the adjustment that they made that late in the ball game. They said, we're going to get the ball out of Luka's hands. We're going to make his role players. We're going to make Hardaway Jr. We're going to make Finney-Smith. We're going to make Kleber. We're going to make someone other than Luka beat us. And for whatever reason, Rick Carlisle seemed to be unwilling to do that in Game 6 because he let Kawhi operate one-on-one for the entirety of the fourth quarter, even though he saw Kawhi had it going. Okay, once I see a guy got it going, no, I'm going to get the ball out your hands. I'm going to make these other guys. And last night, the other guys did do it. Even though Kawhi had it going, you look at Marcus Morris, tied Steph Curry for the most made threes in a Game 7. You look at Reggie Jackson. Terrence Mann had 13 big points in the first half. Nicholas Batum was putting the ball on the floor, going to the rim, dunking it. I said, when did he turn into Dominique Wilkins? Luke Kennard had 3 DMPs, Stacks, and all of a sudden he comes in, hits 3 of 5 threes. And that's the difference in the ball game. You mentioned it. I know what Luka's going to give me. He gave me 35 and a half, 10.3, and 8 rebounds. I know that. Okay, what about the other guys? Yesterday, he and Finney-Smith, 9 of 18 from 3. Everybody else not named Luka and Finney-Smith, 1 of 18 from 3. You're not beating this team. The Clippers got back yesterday what they had been all year. They were the best three-point percentage shooting team. They proved that yesterday. They were the best free throw percentage shooting team
in history.
So they proved that.
In history.
So when you need, Stack, you know what I'm saying? When you need something, can I call on it? Well, they needed those threes yesterday. They needed that free throw percentage, and they were able to get it. So for me, it was all about the role players because I know Kawhi. Kawhi was sensational. in this, with the exception of maybe one game skipped the fourth quarter. He missed a couple of shots, but he was sensational. Game 6, you won't find very many playoff performances better than Kawhi's Game 6. But Luka was toe for toe with him. But Luka's supporting cast didn't give him the kind of backup singing that Kawhi's did.
Not at all.
Okay, back to my man, Steven Jackson, who makes a very profound point. Steven is saying he wasn't that impressed because the Clippers finally did what they should have done to start with.
Right.
Well, that was my point from the start. I was out of my mind sitting in this seat because they blew Game 1 and they blew Game 2 at home. The Clippers are the best team in the West. I told you this all year. Jeff Van Gundy kept saying they're the most talented team in the West. They're the deepest team in pro basketball to me. They're deeper than even the Nets are. But they didn't play that way in Games 1 and 2. And early in Game 3 on that fateful Friday night, they fall behind 30-11 before a madhouse sellout crowd in Dallas as the Mavericks are making every three they look at. That they made 35 of 73s in the first 2 games at Staples, and then they go home and make 20 in Game 3. No team in the history of this league has ever lost a home playoff game making 23s, but they did. Because the Clippers finally said, that's enough. Watch this. And it started with Kawhi, and Pandemic P went along for the ride. And he had some bad stretches, but he did a whole lot of good stuff.
Right.
Because when it comes to making free throws, assisting the basketball, rebounding the basketball, he does a lot of dirty work for that team that is irreplaceable.
Especially the last 2 games.
He is talented.
Yeah.
You can rip and slash him all you want. You can ridicule him. But even yesterday, when he went 1 for 9 in the second half, if you look at the overall numbers, he made all 10 of his free throws and had 10 rebounds, or I'm sorry, 10 assists. Right?
10 assists,
okay. Well, that's gold in a Game 7. So in the end, these Clippers showed me some true grit I didn't think they had. They actually showed me some heart and some guts and some stamina I did not think they had, because the world ridicules them as the ugly stepchildren living down in the basement of Staples Center. Yet yesterday at Staples, I thought they turned into the Lakers, because everything that they did at the highest level during the regular season came to fruition yesterday.
Right.
They were the best three-point shooting team, and they outshot Dallas 20-10 from 3. That'll work.
Yep.
And they're the best free throw shooting team in the history of the league. And look what they did. They were plus 13 at the free throw line. Well, that's plus 43 points from 3 in free throws. That's who they are and what they did yesterday. So it wore me out. I'm still exhausted this morning from they're the most frustrating team to watch that I've ever tried to figure out. But in the end, they look like a team that can win it all, to me.
Stacks, let me ask you.
They found the identity. You know, it's never too late to have things start to click, Shannon and Skip. It's never too late. The playoffs, anything can happen. And when your team starts to click, the playoffs is the perfect time. I think they're starting to find their identity. I think guys are starting to find their roles when they're going to get their shots. But this is the perfect time. And with Ty Lue being a coach and a champion, he understands the adjustments you have to make round by round. It's a different level of basketball each round of basketball. And it doesn't matter how tough the first round was. When you get out of it, it's about round 2. Don't even worry about the first round.
Yep.
Stacks, how tall are you? 6'8"?
6'7.5", 6'8".
Okay, check this out. So if you're 6'7", and you got a 5'9" guy playing behind you, why the hell are you shooting threes? Why when you get on the block? Kristaps Porzingis is 7'3" tall. Kawhi, Batum, Paul George, Marcus Morris plays behind him, but he wants to hover around the three-point line. Get your tall butt down on the block and turn around and shoot over the top of them. Why was that so hard for him? They keep calling unicorn. There's nothing unique about Kristaps Porzingis. He's 7'3", and he plays like a 2 guard that's 6'3", that wants to shoot 3-pointers.
Yeah, 13,000 points is not a lot scored to some people, but to me it was a lot. And I wouldn't have had the success offensively. I wouldn't have had in my career if Steve Smith wouldn't have told me my third career. Yeah, my third year in my career, you can shoot threes, but you're gonna have to get on that block to be successful and have a successful career. And he told me that, and I was a 2 guard, so I was bigger than a lot of 2 guards at 6'8", Shannon.
Right.
So he's 7 foot. You got to expose guys, or you got to take advantage of your size, and KP is definitely not doing that.
He's a big guy that plays small. That's the worst thing that you could have is a guy that's tall that plays small because he's 7'3". They playing behind him. Nicholas Batum is playing behind him. Nick Batum has got to be 6'8". So he's giving up 6, 7 inches. And he's out there shooting, jacking up threes. He comes down on a fast break. Yeah.
Play Boban. He was dunking and diving just like a big man was supposed to.
Big Bobby outplayed him. Big Bobby don't play a whole lot. He only played mop-up minutes. And Bobby outplayed Porzingis. He ought to be ashamed of himself.
So is it possible that Kawhi Leonard truly is the best two-way player in basketball? Because he sure showed you that, especially in the last 2 games, right?
He played unbelievable.
Look at the 7-game numbers. He shot 61% from the floor. That's impossibly great. He shot 43% from 3 over 7 games. He shot 90% from the free throw line. Those are numbers only Kareem has put up over a 7-game series. Only Kareem.
Wow.
Okay? And he took Luka when it was time to take Luka.
He was special. But the luxury that Kawhi had is that he still had a number 2 guy in Paul George. Now, Paul didn't play particularly well, especially the last 2 games, Skip. He shot terrible from the floor, 6 of 15, 5 of 15. But as you mentioned, he did other things, 13 rebounds Friday night, 10 assists yesterday. But his role players, see, Luka, Paul George could handle the ball. Reggie Jackson could handle the ball. Rondo came in and did some of the handling. So did PG. Who else besides Luka? And you know this, Stack. After a while, you start playing 40, 42, 45 minutes, and you always on the ball. You're the only one that can get them in and out of sets. It's going to take its toll on you, and it's starting to wear him down. They started to trap him. They started blitzing him, getting the ball out of his hands, and says, you know what? Let's see if Hardaway can make the shots in the 4th quarter that he made in the 1st quarter. Let's see if Kleber, let's see if he can have another game. Skip, you talked about that in the 1st game. Let's see if he can do that again. Let's see what Porzingis could do. And they couldn't. So Luka, 37, 35, and Skip, I don't know if you noticed this, Luka Doncic has the highest scoring playoff average in NBA history. Harden, you know who? The guy that you call the GOAT. That's what Luka is right now, Stack Jack. The highest scoring playoff average in history.
All I know
Shannon,
is
what a lot of people not talk about, excuse me, Skip, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what a lot of people not saying is one thing I love about Kawhi that he understands. You're not going to stop nobody in the NBA. This why I consider myself a good defender. But you got to make it difficult.
Yes.
They're going to get their points. But if you make it difficult for them and wear them down, that's a great defender. Nobody's shutting nobody down in the NBA.
No.
You just got to make it difficult for them. And Kawhi gets that. He gets that. And that's what makes him a great defender.
Only Kawhi bothered him.
Yep.
He was the only guy.
He was.
Because he's so long and quick and shrewd that he'd get a hand up better.
Well, you know why he really bothered him, Stack? Because what did he do on Game 6 and Game 7? The pick and roll. Whoever Luka was guarding, he said, come here, bring me Luka.
He didn't switch.
Bring me Luka. No, because Kawhi ran the offense, Skip, down the stretch in Game 6 and 7. But he wanted Luka in the pick and roll. He said, okay, you want to give it to me on the other end? Bring your ass out here and dance with me right now. Because I'm going to take some of that steam out of you. And every chance he got to put him in the pick and roll, no, I don't want, get him away from me. Bring me Luka. And he did. And I don't know why they didn't double him. Rick Carlisle blew this one, Stack, because he got to take that ball out. You got to take that ball out of Kawhi's hand. There's no way I'm letting the guy go 17 to 22. No, sir. That ain't about to happen.
Better player.
You can't not take the ball out of his hands and let him go one-on-one and still give up open shots.
Thank you.
You can't do that. Either you take the ball out of his hands and give up open shots or take away the open shots and let him go one-on-one. They gave him everything he wanted. He was able to drive and score and make plays for everybody.
Thank you.
And that's why he was able to win the series.
I think you just made the case that Kawhi is a better all-around player than Luka.
Oh, yeah, no question. Luka ain't trying to play no Skip. He can't play no defense.
No defense.
He can't play no defense. But he gonna punish you on the offensive end.
But all I know is by the end of the game yesterday, he was not winking and chuckling after shots because he was missing a lot.
But you know when they got respect for you? You see everybody waiting in line to shake his hand and hug him. You saw that, Stack? Paul George waited on him.
I thought Paul was going to try to trade jerseys with him.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Shannon,
Stop it.
Shannon, you know it's a lot. You know the saying, Luka, you invited to the barbecue? Nah, Luka's throwing his own barbecue and inviting the brothers.
Exactly. He showing up putting pussy to everybody.
That's right.
No mercy.
The Floyd Mayweather and Logan Paul fight ended up going the distance, all 8 rounds with no knockdowns from either fighter. Paul is 6 inches taller and 35 pounds heavier, but the more experienced Mayweather was still able to land 15 more punches. And after the exhibition, Floyd said it just felt good to still move around and that Logan Paul was, quote, better than I thought he was. Well, Steven Jackson is still with us, and lucky us because, Steven, you were at the fight. How surprised were you that Floyd couldn't knock Logan Paul down or out at all? And what was the atmosphere like?
The atmosphere was crazy. Showtime really put on a beautiful event. I think everybody in that stadium was surprised, not just Floyd. Everybody was. Logan Paul came to fight. He was prepared. He looked great. And he said something that a lot of people not paying attention to. He told Floyd his weight class is for a reason. And it showed last night. Floyd couldn't hurt him. Floyd couldn't put him down. And I give Logan Paul a lot of props, man, to go in there, to stand in there with Floyd and to do what he did because, like I said earlier, Shannon, somebody got to hit me and make me fight. I got to fight of just instinct. I can't prepare and walk in the ring and work out to get ready to fight somebody. I'm a street fighter. Somebody got to just swing on me and then I react. But for him to go out, even Chad, man, much props to Chad too, man. Shout out to Chad Ocho Cinco. He went out there, man. On the shorts, he says, I am an athlete. And he is an athlete to be able to go out there and to go those rounds. So last night was a beautiful environment. I think Floyd is done. I think he don't need to fight no more because, it was a good money grab for him, but I don't think it's going to happen again.
No. Because the thing, what Conor made it so good because, went 10 rounds, but he ended up knocking Conor McGregor out. Although that's not Conor's discipline. Conor was an MMA fighter. He did have a boxing background. In this situation, here's a guy that puts out YouTube videos. And there is some damn good YouTube videos. But he's not a fighter.
He fought professionally one time
and he lost. He lost.
KSI, another YouTuber.
Yes, another YouTuber beat him. And here's Floyd Mayweather, arguably the greatest fighter. He is the greatest fighter of his generation. You can make a case he's a top 5 fighter in the history of boxing. And I know he's older, but to not be able to put any effective punches, impactful punches on Logan Paul, I was like, really? And you're right. There's a weight class for a reason. And that's why you take your hat off to a guy like Roy Jones, Skip. He was a super middleweight that ended up winning the heavyweight title. Or these guys that, guys that move up in weight class, they might start out at 112 and go all the way up to 154. And you're like, well, hold up. How did they do that? But for a guy, Floyd was in shape, but he wasn't in boxing shape, Stat. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a difference between being in shape. You and I are in shape. But you're not in basketball shape. I'm not in football shape. I'm in shape for walking around looking good in clothes. You need to be able to. Logan Paul was in shape to fight. Now, although he was blown, Skip, after about the second round, he was out of gas. And that's what was surprised me.
He showed a lot of heart.
Yes.
He did.
Because, Stats, when you get tired, that's when guys get knocked out. Your hands drop. He had his hands down by his side, and he started breathing out of his mouth. So now he does not bite on that mouthpiece. And so I was surprised. I'm shocked. But like you said, to pick up a quick $20, $30 million, but Floyd, let this go, man. Let it go. You don't need this. You above this.
So, Steven, speaking of the atmosphere, you were ringside last night. There were a lot of boos that you could hear over the telecast, especially cascading at the end of the fight. Were they booing because Floyd couldn't even knock him down? Is that what was going on?
Well, it was more boos from Logan grabbing than anything. A lot of people was booing because he was grabbing, but they didn't understand this is a boxing match. You wouldn't go in there. You're going to do anything you can. If you in there, it's not getting knocked out. And that's part of boxing. Grabbing is a part of boxing. If you watch boxing, it's some professional boxers in championship fights that hold and grab to win fights. So
Roy Jones against Mike Tyson.
Yeah. So and that Logan did what he had to do to be successful in the fight and to stay in there all those rounds without getting knocked out. And anybody can say a lot of things, but you wasn't in that ring. He did what he had to do, man. I salute him.
So, look, I know you guys love you some Floyd Mayweather Jr. I respect him. And because I respect him so much as the greatest defensive fighter ever and one of the great punch throwers I've ever seen as far as accuracy goes. He was deadly accurate with his punching. Because of those two things, it hurt my eyes to watch him last night because even though they didn't, quote unquote, keep score, in the end, it tarnished Floyd's legacy in my memory bank because I'm going to have to hang on to that. I can't unsee what I saw from Floyd last night. He looked like he was up in weight. You know, he used to fight at 147. I don't know. He might have come into this fight at 160-ish, somewhere in there. His face looked a little fuller, maybe because he had the full beard, but it just looked slightly heavy compared to what he used to look like when he was right. And I saw the interview pre-fight in which he said, hey, I'm retired as a boxer, but I haven't retired as an entertainer. And he then went in, I'm going to paraphrase this part, but he said, I'm trying to figure out whether I should knock him out early or let it go for a while. So clearly, he thought this was going to be a walk in the park. He thought it was going to be a joke. I thought it was going to be a joke, but I paid my $49.50 or whatever it was just to watch the circus happen because it entertains me if it's a joke. And it was the opposite of a joke because Floyd tried to rope-a-dope him in the second round, just kind of feel him out and let him wear himself out. And then in the third round, Floyd got stung a couple times, not hurt, but stung, and he got mad. And he started throwing the kitchen sink at this kid, and he was swinging and missing. He was flailing a lot, and it shocked me because I've never seen Floyd swing and miss as much as he did last night. And it's not like Logan Paul is a great defensive fighter, but he avoided.
He got no defense.
Well, but did he ever get tagged?
No, not enough to hurt him.
No, it didn't. So in the end, I kept waiting for the fusillade, that just the parade of punches that would put him down. And Floyd, I thought he did his damnedest to knock him down and out, and he could not. And Floyd said when it was over, hey, I'm not 21 anymore, and he was better than I thought. And I think Floyd sort of admitted, I shouldn't do this anymore.
No.
Right?
No.
He got that bag, though. He got that bag.
Yeah.
Well, he got the bag.
And I think that's the thing. But when you fighting guys like a YouTuber, but if you fight anybody with any type of experience, Floyd, that's why, and he made it abundantly clear. I'm not trying to deal with these young lions, the Earl Spence Jr.'s. You know what I'm saying? The Bud Crawford. I'm not trying to see these guys.
Well, guess what? Pacquiao still is.
Pacquiao must be still. He need the bag also. But I'll give Floyd this.
Earl finna finish him too. Earl finna retire him too.
Hey, Stack, you know what? But I give Floyd this credit. He got $49 on some stuff I knew I shouldn't have watched, but I ended up watching it anyway. So that's pretty convincing to me.
Hey, if it ain't beneficial, it's artificial.
Yeah, but in the end, to Floyd, it wasn't worth it to embarrass himself, because I think he even thought
it was us, Skip. We had high expectations.
Right.
Yeah.
High expectations. Floyd knew what he was doing. He knew it was a money grab. He knew what he was going to play. It was our expectations, and we were let down because we thought that one of the best fighters that we ever seen that's going to go in there and make it look real easy for a YouTuber. That's why I give Jake so much props. Floyd went in there with a whole different game plan, and it didn't plan out how he planned it.
Well, the biggest thing also, Stacks, is to knock somebody out, you got to take chances. And Floyd, as Floyd got older, he took less and less risk because he didn't want to subject himself to that. So he was like, he wasn't going to take any less, because even though the guy is not a boxer, he's 100, probably 200 pounds in the ring. He lands something on a 160-pound man, it's going to hurt. So Floyd's like, I'm not taking any unnecessary risk. Let me go get this bag. Y'all talk about me and say, okay, yeah, I didn't knock him out. I didn't hurt him. Good. But guess what? That money counter's still running. You know what it is.
Yes, sir. Run it up. Run it up.
So Floyd can go buy, 5 more cars, maybe? He's got like 30.
Hold up, Skip. This is what y'all don't know. Floyd don't be buying those cars. That's a part of his rider. He get those in his purse. He don't be buying those cars. That's a part of his purse. He get the cars before he even start the fight.
Okay.
Yeah, let me run me one of them cars, Floyd.
Me too.
I'll take one while we're at it.
I done watched all his fights either in person or pay-per-view, Stack, so I should get something.
Yeah, you're a big supporter over there. All right, Steven, I love that you were there. Thank you for the insight. That was really interesting stuff.
No mercy.
This weekend, the Westminster Kennel Club Dog Show is on Fox. On Saturday, it's the Masters Agility Championship beginning at 5 Eastern. On Sunday at 7, It's Best in Show. Catch it all on Fox and the Fox Sports app. I'm going to be hosting that one for the 5th year in a row. And you know I love the dogs. Looking forward to it. Guys, the Clippers became just the 5th team in NBA history to come back and win a series after losing the first 2 games at home. The Clippers also had to come back down 3-2 after dropping Game 5 at home as well. And in the pivotal Game 7 yesterday, Kawhi led the Clippers to victory with 28 points and just an assist shy of a triple-double. So, Shannon, got to ask the question, was this comeback the greatest in NBA history?
No, it's not even top 5. Skip, you know this. I mean, did we forget what the Cavaliers did to the Warriors in 2016?
Nope.
That was a 3-1. That was a 73-9 team. Do we remember what the Warriors did to OKC in the same playoffs? We've seen the the Houston Rockets come down from 3-1 to Phoenix, Skip. No, Boston Celtics come back from 3-1 against the Celtics. Boston came back 3-1 against the Sixers in 81. Skip, this is not even a top 5. I get it. It was great. It was great for the Clipper fans considering their history in Game 7s, considering that how many they had lost and what happened last year. But I get all of that. But Skip, this is not a top 5 moment in NBA history as far as comebacks. I remember the Nuggets came back against the Supersonics, who won 63 games that year. It was the best, if I'm not mistaken, it was the best of 5, and they were down 0-2 and they won 3 straight. So no, Skip, this is not even close. Not even close. Not even close. You can't even make that argument in good conscience.
I got a real good conscience right now because I'm about to make that argument and win that argument. And by the way, the architect of the 2 greatest comebacks, yours in 2016 and this one here, was the same guy, Ty Lue, right?
Yep.
That's interesting to me. And by the way, after all the ridicule about, Doc Rivers, was he the scapegoat? Well, maybe it was a good change to go to Ty Lue.
Yeah,
maybe it brought a new voice to the locker room.
But Skip, you got to admit, Kawhi ain't played like this Game 6 or 7 last year.
Okay. Well, did he need a new voice, a new motivation? Is Ty Lue actually the playoff Rondo that I thought playoff Rondo would be? Is it Ty Lue's leadership that got them home through the darkest nights? And again, Ty Lue kept saying exactly the right thing at every juncture in this series because he kept saying, look, I've been an underdog all my life. Remember, we were kind of getting on him a little bit for there's no desperation, where there's no urgency, we're not panicking. Well, they didn't. So here's why this was the greatest comeback, unless you want to redefine it as the most unlikely comeback ever, the most improbable, the most impossible comeback ever, because you have to use your favorite word, context.
Okay.
Remember, they came off a series last year in the bubble in which they had Denver dead to rights down 3-1. They failed to close 3 straight closeout games in which they led by 19 and 14 and 12 points. So they had that hanging over their psyches going into this playoff run, right? And what do? They are heavily favored to win Game 1 and Game 2 at Staples. And what do? They just upchuck all over the floor. They are pathetic. They look like what Clippers are notoriously supposed to look like, a disaster. So again, they're down 0-2 going to Dallas because Dallas had made 35 of 70 three-point shots. And Dallas goes home and makes 20 more, 20 of 39. So they're way above 50% for the series.
Right.
And what happens? They're up 30-11 in Game 3 at Dallas on a Friday night before a sellout throng that is crazed, featuring Dak Prescott in the first row and Michael Irvin up in one of the boxes. That crowd was on fire because the Mavericks were on fire. If I had called you at 30-11 Dallas, you would have been laughing at me because you just said this thing is way over. Am I right?
Not in the first quarter.
Yes, you would have. You would have because
in the first quarter,
they've shown no signs of life. They're on the road against that team that have been very good at home this year.
Well, I saw LeBron come back. I saw LeBron come back from 73-49 at the half.
Think of what these are. These are the Clippers, the ugly stepchildren in the basement at Staples. And now at that point, they had lost 5 straight playoff games that they were supposed to win. They'd been favored 5 straight times, 3 against Denver and 2 against the Dallas Mavericks, and they had just gagged and choked all over the floor 5 straight times. And they had history weighing on their heads. And they're down 30-11, and I still don't know how they won game 3.
Can I ask you a question? Has there ever been a team come back from 0-2 in the playoffs?
Well, sure, but not under these circumstances, not with the history of being the Clippers.
You know, when Portland came back from 0-2 in the finals against the Sixers.
You're disallowing what I just told you. They had just blown 3 straight closeout games against Denver in the previous bubble.
I thought Ty Lue said this was a different team. You said they got a different voice in there.
Well, they sure didn't look like a different team after the first 2 games and after the first quarter of game number 3, right?
Skip, I don't think under any circumstances will someone says coming back from 0-2 is better than coming back from 3-1, and you're doing it against a 73-9 team. And remind you, when the Warriors came back, they came back against KD and Russ.
Okay, so that night, game 3 at Dallas, the Clippers got outscored by 21 points from the three-point line. What usually happens when that happens?
Yeah.
You just lose.
Right.
And somehow they chipped away and came back, and I don't know how they did it, but Kawhi was spectacular. Paul George was spectacular. All the role players, because they're the deepest team in the league, started to click.
Right.
And Marcus Morris made 3 huge threes, and all of a sudden they somehow survived game 3. And they win game 4 in the only blowout in the series. And then help me out. What happened when they came home for game 5 when they were in control?
Right.
And the whole NBA world said, okay, you got this.
Right.
They don't got this.
Let's give that.
Okay, Kawhi stunk up the 4th quarter of game 5, right?
Yeah.
And how does game 5 end? With a Kawhi air ball from the corner to tie. He shoots an air ball, and Rondo shot right up to him and got in his face about it, and they went back and forth, and it looked like they had dissension in the ranks, right?
Well, Skip, it's hard for me. When you're down 3-1 to the defending champs, and you got game 5 in their building, and you get 2 guys go for 41, Kyrie and LeBron, and then you come back game 6, and LeBron does it again, and then game 7, the greatest defensive player in NBA history. Would you? Hey, Jim, can you got that?
No, that was the bicycle.
No, that
was J.R. Smith started that play.
Don't do that, Skip.
Yeah.
Do we have that play?
Yeah,
the greatest defensive player.
Watch J.R. J.R. did it first. J.R. got there first. He cut him off for the pass.
Skip, where did he come from?
He cut him off for the pass. He was going to dunk it, and at the last second, because J.R. Smith got in the way, he had to go up and under, and LeBron had time to catch up. Way to go. LeBron got the assist on it. He actually got the cleanup.
What you call about to call and one. Iggy said and one. And nothing.
Greatest defensive play ever.
Greatest.
It was a straight-out ambush.
Greatest.
Ambush.
Skip.
Came from nowhere after J.R. had cut him off.
This is not a top 5 comeback in NBA history. In the first round?
Okay,
first of all, it's the first round.
Okay, I'm going to finish. So they lose game 5 at home, and they are in the deepest hole because they have to go back to Dallas for game 6. And I thought they were going to lose it. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? They're down 4 going to the 4th quarter at Dallas, and they are cooked again. And what happened? Kawhi Leonard happened. He went 5 for 5 in the 4th quarter, 2 of 2 from 3. Scored 12 points. And by the way, Paul George scored 8 more points, and they won the 4th quarter 31-20. That's impossibly
Think about
great.
this, Skip. You say they're going back for game 6. They had just beat them. In games 3 and 4 in Dallas. So how improbable would it have been for them to win game 6?
Well, then how improbable was it to come back home where they blow game 7s like clockwork?
Right.
And they come in yesterday, and Luka is hot from the start, and so is Tim Hardaway, or as I started calling him, Steph Hardaway, because he looked like Steph Hardaway. And all of a sudden, they get down 5 early in the 3rd quarter, and they go on a 30-6 run. When they were down 5, I thought they were cooked again. They kept digging themselves out of hole after hole after hole against the greatest score. You've already made the case. No one has scored like this, the way Luka is scoring.
No.
Okay? So it took all of their guts and gumption and grit and backbone and heart and soul. It took it. They kept climbing out of holes because they're the Clippers. Again, the expectations were they were favored in every game, so they're expected to win, but they're also expected to collapse because they have a history of collapse. They have a history of being the second team in L.A., the other team,
what
right?
What about your Raptors with Kawhi? They was down 0-2 with the MVP, and they won 4 straight in the Eastern Conference Semis.
Where did they lose the 2?
They was on the road. Yes.
Yeah, they lost. These guys lost the first two at home.
And win 4 straight.
Okay, let's look at what happened in that fateful series when the Golden State Warriors were up 3-1 in 2016.
Yeah, what happened?
On your LeBrons. Draymond Green got suspended for Game 5. So don't give me it was full strength, because he was the guts and the glue of that team. He was their enforcer, and he was trying to enforce so strongly that he got into it with LeBron James and yelled out as loud as he could yell, called him the B word. And Kiki Vandeweghe, who ran the discipline program for the NBA, heard it in the second row. And he said, well, that's enough, because there'd been a kicking incident already in the previous round.
But Draymond had a history of kicking people.
Okay, he did.
Remember, he got Steven Adams.
And he did it in the previous round of these playoffs. So he goes up the floor and gets tangled up with LeBron and kicks him in the midsection right in front of everybody's eyes. And something happened I thought I would never, ever see. The NBA suspended a starting player, a star, an all-star, for one of the 2 finals teams. Have you ever heard of that? I've never seen it happen before. You could fine him, but you can't suspend him.
Well, when they did, who that came off the bench? Somebody came off the bench. Amari Stoudemire. They suspended him for the game. Was that Game 7?
Against San Antonio.
Yeah, San Antonio. So it's not. It was not.
But that was a blatant breaking of a rule.
Come on, Skip.
Well, it was blatant. You cannot leave the bench and step onto the floor.
Look what Robert Horry did.
Okay, well, I'm just saying that was blatant. This was not blatant. This was a judgment call on Draymond.
Okay,
right? So there's no Draymond, and they go home for a Game 5 in which they're down their guts and glue guys.
Okay, what about Game 6?
And what happened? Well, they won the game.
What about Game 6?
Well, that's back in Cleveland, and both LeBron and Kyrie go crazy.
Okay, well, so what about the series before? Golden State was down 3-1 against Russ. And
I don't care, because we're talking about this one right now.
But
you're saying this was the greatest ever.
No, I'm saying the one that you talk about, the Clippers against the Mavericks, is not top 5.
Okay, well, you're saying this is top 1, and I'm
yes, it is.
Okay.
Because it's never been done before.
Okay, but what happened in Game 7 back at Oracle? Well, it was not so much about what LeBron and Kyrie did. It's what Steph didn't do. Look how pathetic he was.
If we're going to do that, I can say, well, what about Luka's supporting cast? What didn't they do? If we're going to make it about what teams didn't do, couldn't we do that?
Okay, well, what about Steph's the MVP, though?
Right? Yes.
So you would expect Luka of this series, the Golden State.
But you told me Kawhi was the best player.
Okay, but no, we're talking about Steph. He was a 2-time MVP.
Right.
He was a back-to-back MVP.
And we came back and got him.
And in Games 4, 5, and 6, I'm sorry, 5, 6, and 7, he was a complete no-show.
Yes.
And in Game 7 at Oakland, you won 93-89, and it was more about what Golden State could not do, because Steph, in the fourth quarter of that game, went 1 for 6, 1 of 5 from 3, and had the crucial turnover when he threw it behind his back into the 5th row.
But I tell you what, you guys have been involved in one of the great comebacks. It just happened to you last year. The Nuggets walked you down 3-1.
Okay, that's why this was even greater. They were in a much deeper hole because of the home court.
But you told me last year didn't matter.
What do you mean last year didn't matter? Well, it mattered now.
Because
you have to deal with the demons of last year.
The demons, huh?
Well, you just do. This was the most unlikely, impossible.
What about the demons
ever.
LeBron had?
Yeah.
Them demons that he had to overcome.
Well, you had a bunch of demons.
Okay.
2011 demons, 2010 demons.
So that's why it's the number 1, then. I'm glad you said that.
2014 demons. Game 6, 2013 demons. Yep, he had a lot of demons.
It's not better than the Rockets. Skip, what about the Rockets when they came back against the Clippers? We just talked about this the other day. They were up 3-1. And they lost game, got blown. They was up 19 in Game 6.
But those were all home court series where it stayed on home court.
You got home court series. You had home court. You had Game 7 in your building.
I know, but they'd already lost 3 straight games at home. It's never happened before in the history of basketball. It never happened.
I can make a case this is not even a top 10 come from behind.
You know what? The more you talk, the worse it gets.
Not even top 10. Not top 10, no.
You could just see on circumstances, on history, this was the most unlikely comeback in history.
Because it's the first round. I'm giving you series that happened in the finals, Eastern Conference Finals, NBA Finals, at least get the semifinals.
Did anybody expect your Cavaliers in 2016 to come back from
Yes!
Nobody.
I did.
Nobody.
Who came on your show and told you, said, come on, go I'm driving the fire
and at the
truck.
last second when I pushed you, as we were going off the air, you switched your pick back to Golden State. That's what happened. That's how much you believed.
I believed.
Nope, you did not.
I believed.
You said you wanted Golden State.
Anything's possible.
No.
Who was at the parade?
Kevin Garnett.
Who was at the parade? Who was at the parade in 2016?
Photobombing LeBron. It was you. Unless you photoshopped yourself
No,
in
I was
there.
actually there. Me and Oak was at the parade.
I don't
But
know
Skip,
why.
this is not a top. This is not even close.
Yep. This is the most amazing thing I've ever seen in all my years watching the NBA back to 1976 when I covered the Lakers for the LA
Miami
Times.
coming back from 0-2 against Dallas, Skip, down 13 with 4 minutes left in the game.
Yep.
To come back and win 4 straight. That's more impressive than this.
And by the way, speaking of the Lakers, I need to read the tweet that I tweeted immediately after the Clippers won Game 7 yesterday because it pertains to your Lakers. If I could, if we could show this, please.
Okay.
For those who said the Clippers tanked to avoid playing the Lakers, avoid playing them at what? Golf, tennis, lawn bowling, checkers. Enjoy your vacation, LeBrick.
I noticed how you tweeted that. After the series, you didn't tweet. No, I needed you to tweet that when they was down 0-2. I needed you to tweet that when they was down 3-2.
So you were the primary perpetrator of this nonsense, this garbage that you spilled all over this table.
True.
That the Clippers actually
They're the
tanked
tickers.
to try to avoid the Lakers. They didn't. If they wanted the Lakers, they wanted them first. And the reason they did not play their stars down the stretch was what happened yesterday. Was Kawhi Leonard healthy yesterday? Was he looked like his gas tank was still full at the end of the game?
Utah Jazz, baby. Let's go, Jazz.
Yeah. I think they stuck it right to you.
Utah Jazz,
And again,
baby.
you tried to motivate the Mavericks, as in they wanted you guys.
They did.
Yeah.
They did.
Show
But
them.
they
And
coming.
they showed them in the first 2 games.
I'm going to get me a Donovan Mitchell jersey.
Yep. Well, you're going to need it because this series is going to be very different because there's no Luka in this series. There's no Porzingis in this series. There's no Hardaway Jr. shooting threes from Mesquite.
You do realize Utah is the best three-point shooting team,
Yeah,
right?
I got it. I got it. But the best percentage three-point shooting team is this one.
And Donovan Mitchell, he might not be Luka, but he's plenty good enough.
He's plenty good
Plenty
enough.
good
and
enough.
We'll see about that because they're going to have to also deal with the deepest, most talented team in the West.
It's not like you make it seem like Utah some bums.
Where are the Lakers now? Where's LeBron on St. Kitts? Or where is he?
I mean, that's what happens when you have a short turnaround. See, y'all got extra rest last year, remember? Y'all got put out in the second round.
Yep.
And got rest. So you were rested. You got an extra month.
Well,
That is fair.
Somebody's
They did
still
have
playing at
extra
Staples. There's playoff fever at Staples, but it ain't Laker fever.
All I know is Lakers ain't have no cardboard cutouts. We don't have no cardboard cutouts in our
Yes,
game.
you do. You have
No,
the
we
very
don't.
same crowd.
No,
that
we
the
don't. No,
Clippers
we
have.
didn't. No, we
Yep.
didn't. No.
Yeah.
No mercy.
Trae Young and the Hawks shocked Joel Embiid and the 76ers. Game 1 yesterday, Atlanta jumped out to a 42-27 first quarter lead and was able to hold on for the 128-124 victory. Trae finished with 35 points, 10 assists. Embiid led the Sixers with 39. So, Shannon, how much trouble are the 76ers in?
Skip, I told you this. I said they're in big trouble. And we talking about, well, if Joel Embiid is healthy. I said, well, if Joel Embiid is unhealthy, they're losing the series. I said, even with a healthy series, this is going to be a long series. The Hawks are good. I don't know if they shocked the Knicks. No, they didn't shock. There was no shock. I told you the Hawks were going to beat the Knicks. Skip, they got guys that can score, they can shoot the ball. All of their guys can shoot with the exception of Capella. But what Capella does all the things. He rebounds, he sets good hard screens, and, he'll defend. So he does what he does. But when you talk about Trae Young and Bogdanovich and Huerta and John Collins and Gallinari, all those guys can shoot the 3-ball. And again, what did they do very well yesterday, Skip? Shoot the 3-ball. Now, they're going to need this type of performance from Joel Embiid every single game because everybody is waiting for the Hawks to cool off. I wouldn't hold my breath. Now, I'm not saying they're going to make 20 threes, but they can make timely threes. And every time early in the fourth quarter that the Sixers would get close, Bogdan would hit one. Huerta would hit one. Trae Young would hit one. This game really shouldn't have been that close, but it just goes to show you the Hawks, Skip, they're a very young team. They don't really have guys that's ever been in this situation. This is a Bogdan first playoff. This is Trae Young's first playoff. There are a lot of guys that hadn't been in this moment, and so they didn't handle the pressure situation very well. They won the game, but this is going to be a long series. In actuality, Skip, I would be less surprised if the Hawks won than if I saw Milwaukee beat the Nets.
So you want some of me on Hawks? You want to go? You just stole game one.
We didn't steal it.
Yeah.
We didn't steal it. We told you we were coming. It was on the schedule for like 3-4 days, so we didn't steal it. We didn't sneak up on you. Get you again.
I'll take the Sixers for 3 cases right now just to
For
win
the
the
series.
series. Yeah.
Okay.
Got it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'm up. I got like 10 cases the last 2 games.
You have not gotten 10 cases. You got 5 on one game where I just flipped around because I was sick and tired of my Clippers.
That's okay.
And I gave you back
I'm about
5
to get
cases.
3 more.
I'm only at 45.
And now I'm going to get, guess what? But it's Utah series, I get it back. Then Utah series, I'm going to get it back. Utah and Atlanta going to get me right back in the mix.
Okay, so what I saw yesterday was the Sixers came out flat in the first quarter. They did not take Trae Young as seriously as you have to take Trae Young. I think he's about 5'11", let's say he's 6'1", but I call him Maestro, you call him Maestro.
Yeah.
But the point is that in the second half, they finally got serious with him. They just said, well, he's not going to beat us, and he couldn't. So what happened to Trae Young in the second half yesterday? He goes 3 of 10 from the floor. He goes only 0 of 1 from 3. They just wouldn't let him get a 3 up.
Right.
And he gets to the free throw line 0 times in the second half, and he's a minus 13 in the second half for a grand total of 10 points in the second half. Well, he torched him in the first half.
Yeah.
He was the reason that it was a crazy halftime deficit. It was embarrassing at halftime. To give up that many, what was it?
74.
74 points. Woo!
Against a top-ranked defensive team.
This is the second best defensive team statistically in basketball. Interesting.
And they did that?
Okay, and in the second half, they look like the second best defensive team. And in the fourth quarter, they definitely look like it because they won the fourth quarter 41-29. And if they could have just gotten your old friend Danny Green to make a couple of threes.
That's the Danny Green that I know.
Well,
that's the guy I've been looking for.
It's good Danny and it's bad Danny. It's hot Danny and it's really cold Danny. And yesterday it was really cold Danny because he took 4 threes and missed all 4 of them. And in the fourth quarter, he took 2 threes that were timely. They were game changers. They were roof rockers.
That would have broke their back.
It might have broken their back. And he missed both of those, and Tobias Harris missed a key one, and Maxey missed a couple of key ones. So the point was they almost got him. They almost did. But Bogdan finally just stepped up and said, I'm sick and tired of this, and he made a huge late 3. And then Herter made an impossibly great pass out of a double team in which he was stymied on the far baseline and
when
threw it up court, and it resulted in an easy.
They got a clear path and the ball back.
Got the ball back, and that was the basketball game. But I think Philly's going to feel real good about itself, except for this. Even though you look at the numbers, the numbers are pretty good for Joel Embiid. What's he wind up with? 12 of 21. He makes 14 of 15 free throws as always. So he's 39 points and 9 rebounds. And he has 4 assists and he blocks 3 shots. That's pretty good, right? Didn't look quite right to me because I know his game. I love him. I think he's the best big man in basketball. I think he's more valuable than Joker is. But the point is that he favors the right leg. He's got a tiny meniscus tear, cartilage tear in his right knee. And it's not the knee that was surgically repaired, but again, he gets the demons in his head about these little knick-knack injuries. And this isn't knick-knack, but they think they can muddle through with it. But he has to believe in his head it's okay. And there was one late where he came down a little awkward on the right leg, and it stung a little bit, and he's fretting coming up the court. I don't think he was quite right down the stretch. I don't think he was quite Embiid confident down the stretch. So that could do them in, but he still put up big enough numbers that even at, I'm going to call him 85% of Joel Embiid, that's good enough to overcome Capella and the Hawks.
And guess what? If worse come to worse, guess what we could do? Hacker Simmons.
Well, you could try.
3 of 10.
I know. It was terrible.
Hacker Simmons.
Yep. So what do you got? Atlanta in 6?
I got Atlanta for 3 cases over you.
Yeah.
Probably 6.
6. I think it's going to take all of 7 games because I respect the Hawks because they have depth of shooting.
They can shoot it.
They have a whole bunch of shooters who can come at you from everywhere.
And Gallinari hadn't been playing well in these playoffs, Skip, and we know he can shoot the 3.
He can get going. And by the way, your favorite player, Solomon Hill, who sent LeBron packing, basically, he was pretty good yesterday.
He had a big 3.
Yep, and he plays hard, and he does a lot of the dirty work. I've never seen anything quite like how hard he plays as a veteran defensive stopper for them.
Yeah, we got this one.
So you got it?
Got this one.
You know what?
Hawks.
All of a sudden, Trae Young is starting to believe his own hype.
Yeah, you know.
He's starting to jack up threes at an alarming rate because he was 4 of 11, but the damage all came in the first half. So he was, in the last 2 games against the Knicks, he was 7 of 25. Mm-hmm. And what did I tell you? I complimented him at the end of the regular season because the best thing he did this year was he cut back on, especially logo threes. He dropped his threes per game from 10 a year ago to only 6 this past year.
He had a couple of poses too. You saw him hit the long ones.
Yep.
He shot a couple of them from Pittsburgh. Shot one from Erie. Yeah, way down there. One from North Jersey.
Did he?
Held it right there in front of the bench.
Okay.
And you saw Bogdan told him, "I'm getting too loud up here."
He did that. I fear his threes more than Trae Young's. Trae Young better keep it down to a low roar and take 6 or 7
Don't
threes,
worry about that.
or you're going to be in trouble. I hope he jacks up 15 a game.
You better hope not, because he's just as apt to go 9 or 15 and shoot y'all right out the building. But y'all in trouble. Y'all are in a heap of trouble.
I'll do 1 case alone on game 2.
Nope.
If you want to do that.
Nope, I already got me 3.
Yeah.
You're good?
Philly cheesesteaks on you, Skip.
I don't eat Philly cheesesteaks, but you can.
Well, y'all about to eat something?
Even if it was a really, really good Philly cheesesteak,
No.
you wouldn't do it?
No.
Gotta live a little. I will eat
Neither
it
would
for
Shannon.
you. If you,
No, I
yes,
ain't
you would.
Man, I ain't had a cheesesteak in so long, Jenny. It might not be. It might not be the best in the best interest of my
As much as I want to
body.
hang out with you outside of work, you guys are no fun for food. I'm gonna do that on my own.
No mercy.
Tomorrow on FS1, one of baseball's best young players takes center stage as Juan Soto leads the Nationals against the Rays. It all starts at 6:30 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Luka Doncic did all he could to keep the Mavericks' playoff hopes alive in yesterday's Game 7. The 22-year-old guard dropped 46 points and added 14 assists in the 15-point loss. For the series, Luka averaged over 35 points, 10 assists, and nearly 8 rebounds. So, Shannon, give Luka a letter grade series.
Skip, had he won, I gave him an A, but I gave him a B++. I believe he was 1A or 1B. He and Kawhi, the best players on the court. And as Jenny mentioned, he created 77 points, which was the most ever in a Game 7. And that wasn't nearly enough. The other night, Skip, remember he had, 45 and 14. So he's doing it, not only is he scoring, but he's also facilitating and making plays for his other team. 36 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists. And that's what he did over a 7-game stretch. Luka just needed a few other guys to step up. Yesterday, the team was 1 of 18 outside of him and Dorian Finney-Smith. They were 9 of 18. Skip, you can't win. Tim Hardaway Jr. was 1 of 9. Porzingis was 0 for 5. And everybody keeps saying, Luka, just drive, just drive, just drive. But do you understand when he can't get a break and he has to do it all offensively for this team? It's the same reason you can't give Derrick Henry the ball 50 times a game, even though he averages 5 yards a carry. It's just too taxing. It's just too debilitating. If Brunson, if Trey Burke could have relieved some of that pressure and says, okay, give him a break. Skip, do you know when Luka on the court, they outscored the Clippers by 7, and they were minus 43 in the 55 minutes he was off the court? Let that sink in. He couldn't even get a blow. So I gave him a B++. He's special. He is a superstar. I'm not so sure after what I saw, he might be a top 5 player right now, Skip Bayless. But there's no question in my mind. He's definitely a top 10. But it's going to be hard pressed. Somebody's going to have to convince me with a Harvard law degree or a John Jay law degree that he's not a top 5 player.
And you still call him Baby Bird?
Baby Bird.
As in Larry Bird Jr., as in your favorite player growing up, and we're seeing the reincarnation?
Give me another year or two, he might be my favorite player playing. Larry Bird 2.0.
Really?
Yeah.
You're saying LeBron's going to be gone in 2 years?
It might be my favorite player.
So, back to the question and the letter grade. I will give you this. I will give Luka an A for all of his 7 first halves. I'm going to give him an F for all of his second halves, his 7 second halves. So I will average that grade out to a C for the whole playoff series. Really, really. Let me back that up. First halves, Luka averaged 22.3 points per half in the first half. That's extraordinary. That's just unstoppable. He was scoring literally at will and at Kawhi and at PG and at Marcus and at Batum and name somebody. They even threw Reggie at him a couple times. Reggie Jackson, I'm just like covering my eyes.
Reggie, Terrence, man, Rondo, everybody.
You name them. But 22.3 a half in the first half fell 9 points to 13.4 in the second half. And that 13.4 got padded in games 6 and 7, especially when he got a bunch of garbage points late in those games.
I give you 6. I ain't going to give you 7.
What's that?
I said, I give you 6. He did get a couple of cheapers in game 6, a couple of layups at the end.
He also got them yesterday at the end when he did not deserve them. So what did we see happening in the first half? He went 20 of 39 from 3. He's not a very good 3. He's a career 33% three-point shooter. 33%. Well, he shot 51.3 in the first half alone in 7 games of the first halves. That's impossibly good. He drove me like completely out of my mind. I'm having to walk away from the TV. I can't watch it. It's like every 3 that left his hand, I'd say, that's good. And he was arcing them like 50 feet in the air. And then he was chuckling as he backpedaled up the court. Or sometimes he was flat out laughing as he backpedaled. Yesterday, at one point, he winked at somebody in the crowd as he backpedaled, maybe at Mark Cuban. I don't know, like, I got this. He was in games 1, 2, and 3 trash talking like crazy. Not in my house. You're too little. I got this.
He was.
Right? And I kept saying, just wipe the smirk off his face, Clippers. Get mad at him. Somebody get mad. Somebody say, not in our house yesterday. And finally, they said, not in our house. So now let's look at the three-point shooting in the second half. What happened? That's interesting. It plummeted to 11 of 37. Well, that's 29.7%. That's closer to who he really is. So his three-point shooting failed him in the second half, as did his free throw shooting, because in the first half of the 7 games, he shot 20 of 29. That'll work. That's 69%. That for him, that's pretty good.
Right.
In the second half, he was 7 of 22. That's 31%, which is abysmal.
Right.
And you're giving him a B++.
I gave him a B++, Skip, because I think the thing is that you have to look at his PER compared to this game, this series, as opposed to the regular season. He's having the ball a lot more. He's having to do a lot more. And I'm not so sure, Skip, what might have hurt him is that because he gets it going in this first half, everybody else is standing around watching. And now when he needs them to make shots in the second half, can't nobody make shots. So
I dare even the Maverick fans to look closely at what happened yesterday in Game 7, because your Mavericks seized control of that game with 6:53 left in the third. You had your biggest lead of the day. You were +5. You're up 5 points at 81-76. Over the next 9 minutes and 33 seconds, the Clippers roar back on a 30-6 run that puts them up 19 in the fourth quarter.
Right.
From up 5 to down 19. Right. Over that stretch, your man Luka was 2 of 7 from the field, 0 of 3 from 3, 0 of 2 from the free throw line. He just wasn't there, while Kawhi definitely, again, everybody started hitting shots for the Clippers, but Kawhi scored 11 in that stretch. Luka scored 4. And it was a 30-6 run that virtually put the game away for the Clippers.
But I get it. 36, you look at those numbers. But you look at what Kawhi got that Luka didn't get, which was help from the supporting cast. And in the Game 7, okay, if the stars neutralize each other, what am I going to get from my guys?
Well, they didn't neutralize. Kawhi just took the game over.
Skip. What do you mean? Hold on.
So I just showed you. That's 9 minutes and 33 seconds. Luka was really nowhere to be found.
So what am I going to do like Marcus Morris so you all of a sudden turn into Steph Curry?
Well, I'm just saying he was the guy, and he wasn't there. Kawhi was there, not Baby Bird.
No mercy. The Nets won Game 1 against the Bucks on Saturday, but will be without James Harden for Game 2 tonight. Right hamstring tightness is what will keep Harden sidelined. And Steve Nash said of his star guard, quote, "We've got to see what happens, and only time will tell how he responds." So, Shannon, how far can the Nets go without James Harden?
Skip, I believe they could probably get out of the Eastern Conference, but I don't know if they can beat one of the three, especially if it's a Phoenix, Clippers or Utah. I don't know if they can beat one of those three teams. Now, maybe they can beat the Nuggets without James Harden. I do believe they can get out of the Eastern Conference without James Harden because Kyrie and KD are playing out of their minds. But I don't know if they can win a title against one of those three teams without Harden.
I hope James can play, but it doesn't sound good.
It doesn't.
Because it's the same hamstring that
They kept him out like a month and a half.
No. They were invincible with James.
Yes.
They can still win it without him, but they're just going to have to earn it now with those two stars.
Yep.
And Jeff Green's going to have to come back. Remember, he's been out with plantar fasciitis.
Right.
And now the pressure mounts on Blake and Joe Harris and Landry Shamet.
Right.
And you can go right down the list. Mike James. They need all the role players to step up and play even bigger than they have been playing. They're deep enough. They can still win the East.
That's a great luxury to have. Got KD and Kyrie. They still can go get you 60, 70 between the two of them.
Yep. Frustrating that he's dealing with another injury. I hope that he's back very, very soon. We'll be all over that one. Undisputed is back at the same time tomorrow morning. The Herd with Colin and Joy is next. Have a great day, guys.